Hi, today I'll try out the Dehancer Pro plugin to Davinci Resolve where you can emulate film, and I'll give my thoughts about it. I have this example frame here from a short film, which I'll try to grade today with the Dehancer plugin. Here is my kind of basic node tree for this image. I have 8 nodes. I like to expose the video before and then use the Dehancer plugin as a complement. First off, we have 2 color space transforms. We have one in the beginning here, and we have one in the end here. The first node is just converting the footage to Davinci Wide Gamut. This is shot on the Sony FX3, so I'm converting from S-Log3 to Davinci Wide Gamut. And then in the end, I'm converting it to Rec 709 and Gamma 2.2, then from Davinci Intermediate and Davinci Wide Gamut. By doing it like this, I can be as flexible as I want when I'm actually color grading. And then I go over to the next node, where I expose the image just in rough edges where I kind of want it to be. I've chosen to brighten up the image, so maybe around 0.5 I think is good. Then in the next node I'm changing the temperature in the image. I think it should be a little bit warmer, so I've just made it a little bit warmer as you can see here. Before, after, before, after. Then I'll go over to the contrast, where I've just added a bunch of contrast, and then I've played around with the pivot point just to make sure I like it. Lastly, I have a quick saturation node where I just saturate the image a little bit more. I don't know if you can see it, but it's here. I feel like this is kind of where I want it to be. This is just a quite normal look. So then we'll move on to the Dehancer plugin. I'll activate it here. As you can see, a big difference. So I'll go through how I did this. I can turn off all the tools firstly. So when I first activate the Dehancer plugin, we get to input. And because I'm in Davinci Wide Gamut and Intermediate, I'll choose this one. But if you're in Rec 709, you can choose that one. And you can also choose which camera you used for recording this. So if I, for example, use the Sony FX3, I can choose the Sony FX3 and S-Log3. But now this doesn't work because I've already transformed it to Davinci Wide Gamut. So I'll go back to Davinci Wide Gamut here. And here you can change the exposure, temperature, tint, defringe, but I won't do this because I've adjusted this earlier. Then the first and the biggest change in the image is the emulation LUT. So I can activate this, enable. The dark parts get a little more cooler and the highlights get a little bit warmer. As you can see here when I turn it off and turn it on. You can choose a bunch of LUTs here. You can try out everyone and see what you liked, and I did that, and I like the Astrum color negative 125. This one worked for me this time. And I'll just leave it here. Maybe I'll put it down, maybe I'll push it down just a little bit because I like the colder image a little bit more. And then I'll go over to the print. Here you can enable this. You can see a little bit changed already. You can choose from 5 prints here. Right now I'm choosing the Kodak Endura glossy paper because I liked it. I've also increased the exposure here because I want it to be even brighter. So as you can see here, I have put it that. And then I have also decreased the tonal contrast just to make the other parts a little bit brighter as well. I have also increased the color density. I think you can see the most difference in her lips here from going. I don't think the color density maybe always should be at 100, but in this image I liked it because I think her face just looks more alive and more saturated and more interesting. You can also here turn on the analog range limiter, as you can see what that does. And next on we'll try out the film compression. What this does is that it decreases the highlights. So if we zoom into a highlight here on her right shoulder, we can see this is a light part of the image, and if we enable this, it just darkens just a little bit. We can also do this in the curves by decreasing the top right corner. As you can see, this also decreases the highlights. But of course the film compression does it in a better way. You can also change the impact, as you can see here, white point where this happens, and tonal range and color density. I liked it like this. So here's the image we have now. You can see this is before and after, and we'll move on. Next, I'll move on to the film grain. You can choose a bunch of different profiles here. You can choose 8mm and you can enable this and you can see how much grain we now got. This is a very exaggerated look. I don't like it at all, but I guess If you like it, you like it. I like when it's a little bit more low key. So I'll go over to the 65mm ISO 50 and I'll just increase the amount just a little bit, just a touch, and then we'll just get a little bit of film grain. So as you can see, this is before and this is after. I like it. This also brightens up the shadows just a little bit. Next on, we'll go over to halation. I don't really like halation. I think people who do it on their film look emulation videos do it too much. I think if we just drag it up and increase it to 100, you can see on the edges of the highlights, the red edge emerges, and this is too much, I think. But if we do want it, I don't really know yet, but we can have it at just a little. Here it's maybe somewhat okay. So here's before, and here's after. Next on, we'll move on to bloom. This is kind of like glare or glow, but bloom. If we enable this, we can just put it up to the 8mm just to make it as exaggerated as possible. Just before and after. But I like this just in a subtle way also, so I'll move on to 65mm and I will just increase it to like 40, and then we'll have this image. I feel like this is kind of done for me, but just to show what you can do with the Dehancer, I'll just run over the other settings as well. You can enable film damage, which just damages the image. So if I make a full screen here, you can see what happens. You can also enable film breath. It just kind of randomizes temperature, tint, and exposure during the different frames. So it just breathes. You can also enable gate weave, which will make the image jitter a little bit instead of using keyframes. You can also enable this overscan. You can see pretty fast what it does. It just adds these borders, and then you can change these borders however you like. If you want it like this. Yeah, I think it's cool. You can also add a vignette here in the end, which if you press enable, you can see what it does. And to make it more clear, you can enable mask mode, where you can see the actual vignette. And then you can move over here, and you can press on this one, and you can press on open FX overlay, and then you can drag this one, so you can move the vignette. And if I want it on her, I can do like that, and then I can change the settings to see what the vignette actually does. So I can change the size here, the aspect ratio, but I won't do it here, I will do that in my next node. And lastly, when I'm done with the whole setup, I'll just change normal fast to high slow to make the image higher quality. And that's how I've used the Dehancer Pro plugin on this image. And then to finish it off, I have another node here, which is a power node, where I've just created a mask, a vignette. And why I do this here instead of in the Dehancer plugin is because I feel like I have more control here. So if we go through all the nodes, this is the log footage. This is in Rec 709. This is more exposed correctly. This is with a changed temperature, added contrast, added saturation, Dehancer plugin, vignette. And that's how I do it. Next up, I want to show you another thing, which is the Dehancer Online. Here you can upload a photo and grade it online. So what I've done is that I've exported a still from the previous scene that we just graded, with everything applied except for the Dehancer plugin. So I'll drag it in, copy, uploading, and then we can see all these presets which we can apply to the image. We have a bunch of different presets. We can have black and white films, color films, but also featured. Let's try out this one, the Fuji Chrome Velvia 100. As you can see, this added a film profile to the image. And then after that, we can go over to brightness and contrast and pick what we like. I think the image before was a little bit too dark, so we have to brighten it up a bit. Kind of like this maybe. And then we can also go to color and change the temperature and tint. Maybe here. And then we can adjust the exposure, the contrast, the temperature, the tint, and the color boost here. We can also add effects where we can add grain, we can add bloom, and we can add halation. We can also add a vignette, but I didn't like it, so I'll turn it off. And then we can see the original here, where we can see the before and the after. Big difference. And then we can export this as a lossless image, a best quality JPEG, and optimized for web. I'll try out the lossless. My opinion about the online version is that it was a little bit slow pressing light and then having to choose one of those instead of just having a slider like you had here and adjust. And I understand what they want to try out to do, but I don't really like it. I think it's a bit confusing and I think it's just a more complicated way instead of just having a slider. It also just takes a little bit more time with these animations where you have to zoom out, zoom in, and press it and the image pops up. But the image quality, when it's done, turned out great. For me as an individual, you can buy the monthly individual subscription for $59 per month. You can buy the annual subscription for $25 per month. Or you can buy a lifetime subscription for $600 and you only pay once. For me, this is quite expensive. I mean, $59 for both photo and video subscription. I get that if you use this all the time and you use this for your clients and work, then maybe it's worth it. But for just an individual who just want to try it out and color grade for fun, this is expensive. Overall, I like the Dehancer plugin very much. I think it's easy to overdo it, and I think you have to have a touch for where the image should be and just not overdo it because it's fun to add grain or halation. The image does not look better just because you add more halation or just because you make it look like film. I think you have to be cautious with that. I think it's expensive for the normal person who just want it for their own videos and for their own projects. But I get that the price is high if you have it for work or for clients' work. And lastly, Dehancer reached out to me to make this video, and you can have the Dehancer Pro version with a 10% discount with the code Alan in the description. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Goodbye.